Angela and then some. I'm just a lady, so internet, do not come at me. Tonight's discussion, and first and foremost, not a lecture. This is a safe, judgment-free zone to think things through, think them out, hold space for things. I think the most average person is kind of just cool with both. If all you did this year was survive, still counts. Hello and welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you made it. So how's everyone doing? It has been a bit of time since we last hung out. So yeah, we're reworking a few things, trying to figure out what the flow we want to go with. So once again, hi, I'm Angela from Angela and then some, just a lady on the internet who just wants to talk about some things. So yeah, so like I said, I'm really glad you're here tonight. And I felt like this week, considering it's January and everything, that this would be a good time to take a step back and pause. January gets a little bit hectic, as everybody's getting back into it for sure. As I think a lot of the times the holidays feels like, yeah, even if you go to work, if you're doing other stuff, it feels more like hectic, but also breathing room. While January feels more like, oh, we're just going right back into the day-to-day of life, right? So I thought it'd be a good time to look and reflect more back on, not necessarily back, but who you are, who we are, and who do you want to become. Happy Tuesday! If you see, my hands are all wonky because I am squished in this odd corner, but I am doing my best, as I hope you are too. So tonight isn't about fixing anything or setting goals. It's more so about thinking together. We're gonna think together, explore a little bit, think our thoughts, but actually maybe figure out what our thoughts actually are concerning certain aspects of ourselves. And one of those things is I wanted to kind of take a look at a few questions, or maybe a certain question that most of us don't get to really ask ourselves. So I'm totally reading my notes and trying to stay on task if you were here at the very, very beginning, I did a little 20-ish second, I'm not sure what it's called, but intro-esque video thing that showed. So things are moved around a little bit just for that. So pardon me if things are a little slow or a little different today. So it's not about what I should do this year, in the new year sense of what your new year resolution may be or what you should be doing this year, but more who are you and who do you want to become? And more so, what does this chapter in my life feel like, or what do I want it to feel like? Because I think with the hustle and bustle of daily life and living, sometimes we don't take in account, obviously surviving and not thriving could be a big issue, but we don't get to take in account where we want to go and where we actually want to be headed. It's more so, like I said, surviving and just pushing forward, maybe driving the car, but not knowing exactly where you're going because you haven't looked at the map in a while. So yeah. So I don't think any of us need our whole life figured out just to sit with this question. And we're not here to decide anything all at once or anything like that, but just to notice. So let me know in the chat how you feel about this and how you're feeling today. Good, bad. Was today a rough one? Personally, today was not so bad for me. I got my things done. I think that's a win for a lot of us when we get our things done. I feel anxious. Ooh, yeah. Anxiety is one of those. It's one, good that you're feeling it, right? You at least know what you're feeling. That's positive. I was tired today, yo. Yeah, I too was tired. The other day I went on a walk with my lovely sister and we were going for it. We did 0.6 of a mile. And we thought, yeah, that was good. We did it. My back was a little sore because I got some other, body issues of things that are just not 100% how they used to be. But we did our best. And then I thought, yeah, I was tired last night, but it's okay. And then today, no, I was really tired today. So yeah, learning, growing, figuring things out for ourselves, right? Okay. So I think most people don't avoid self-reflection. It's more so they're just overwhelmed, and the way our society is built, it kind of doesn't give room to breathe in that regard. Like when you get time to yourself, maybe you have chores to do, laundry, dishes, maybe you have a child to take care of and things like that. Or you just should go to sleep because maybe you have work 4 a.m. in the next day, or 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., or you're just exhausted because physically you're maybe not doing so hot. I push that away. Okay, you do your best. But I think modern life is built in a way that keeps us moving, not necessarily noticing what we're feeling, how we're feeling, and like taking more authorship of our own lives and being like, hey. I think a lot of times externally life pushes us in certain directions. That could easily be like friends or family, but also like the big systemic externally. Like I have, jobs, caregiving, even just modern like social media and things as a way of pushing us into certain directions, without maybe us maybe taking a conscious step back to be like, whoa, I did not want to feel this today. Or yeah, I think a lot of us, if you're in the news sphere or social media right now, there's a lot of things floating around that are like, ooh, this is not good. So there's a lot of vibes that you could accumulate that you didn't think that was going to happen that day. Hello to Danielle. Oh, again, lovely. Thank you all for joining. So, in exploring who are you becoming and what do you want the next chapter or this chapter of your life to feel like, let's explore some the things that kind of stop us from exploring or figuring those things out. I think I mentioned them already. Some of them was like stress, work, caregiving, money, and as well as constant input, be it like social media, algorithms, things like that. There's a lot coming at us. I think currently one way to frame that is like, was it attention economy, where pretty much your attention is what's making the money. So things like Facebook, Instagram, I guess Twitter. I'm gonna still call it Twitter. Things like that, where your attention is the currency. So with things like that going on, it takes a lot for somebody to like pull themselves back from all that. Especially if you do have like work, caregiving, be it elderly people or your children and things like that. It can take a lot out of us to be like, wait, what am I doing today? What am I doing next week? What is the plan for my life this year? So I think survival crowds self-inquiry in that regard. Like you're not going to be thinking the big questions, the big philosophical self-awareness, self-growth, the taking care of yourself on your journey of like, what do you want out of your life when a lot of other things are coming at you. Nick always was Twitter, always will be. Yeah. I never really used Twitter. I was kind of upset in college when a professor of mine, legitimately, she wanted us to be on Twitter, just so we can post things and share what we see. It was a whole like a gender class, so it was like, yeah, it would make sense to go into like social media sphere to kind of get a wider range of what people are saying and sharing things and stuff like that. But I didn't like it then, and I didn't want to use it now. Sorry, moving things around. So she tried pressuring you. No, I wouldn't say necessarily pressure, but it was part of like some of the assignments just so you would know and be aware of what's happening outside of, say, the classroom or your own neck of the woods. But also like sharing things that were, I want to say, about the assignment. So instead of just saying like, writing up a paper or a paragraph or saying like, ooh, sharing this with the class, it was more like sharing it on a broad sphere of like Twitter. So showing that you understood the assignment, like you actually found the clip yourself and was like, this is in reference to assignment, blah, blah. You would say why it's in reference to, why it fits this and all that stuff. And then you would at her so she would know like, okay, this is who this is. This is what it's for. So it's kind of more taking what you're learning in class to the real world and actually using real world examples that you found on your own. So in that regard, that was actually pretty good idea for her to actually not just use a book or use her own knowledge. It was like, you find the stuff, tag me in it, at me and stuff, and then I will grade it on like, yes, you did understand. Yes, this is exactly a great example of XYZ. So yeah. So going into who are you becoming and what you want the next chapter to feel like. Danielle, well, we got another comment coming in. I love it. Kind of like what we focus on grows, and what we place it in areas that aren't right for us, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. Regarding the attention economy, yes. If you're consuming, like, it's one thing, I think, to want to stay up on the latest news. But I think pick your lane. There's a lot going on right now. I think I had this discussion with my family. It was somebody discussed at some reel or post, or maybe something I just read at some point, where it was, there's so many things that, if you care a lot about things, there's so many things to care about, and it could be very overwhelming, and you don't know what to do. So you end up being with it, flight, fight, freeze, or fawn. And so you may just freeze up. You may just not do anything, and that's kind of compliance that's going along with the status quo. So in that regard, take a step back, ask yourself what you actually value, what you actually care about. In regard to, like, maybe it's climate and the environment, maybe it's children and education, maybe it's immigration and things like that. Like, figure out the lane. Even you can go super into it to figure out exactly what lane you care about, and that's where you put the energy. So you're like, I'm not trying to, solve the world's problems. I'm trying to solve a problem that affects my world, or that I feel passionately enough about, to maybe easily just donating like $5 once a week or once every month, just to do something. It's about sharing a post, liking a post, commenting in that arena, just to show that your opinion is out there, that you are reading other people's stuff, kind of a sub community, say on like social media and stuff, that you feel some connection towards. So things like that. And then maybe at some point they can even have meetups or things, and then now you're more so comfortable. You may know faces from, like, if they do lives, or you may know names that you have seen these comments before, and they're in like local areas where they're like, they have actual like jobs descriptions, and they're like, oh, I'm a lawyer and blah blah. So when you go in person, you're like, oh no, these are actually real living, breathing human beings, and now you got a little bit of a community. So yeah, I think, yeah, a lot of us, our current system, how things work, is it's more based on reactivity and not intention. Because your attention is the commodity. It is what advertisers and things like that make money off of. So I think that's also important when you're on YouTube, when you're on social media, when you're watching videos, be it creators, be it companies, to be aware of who they are and what they stand for. Because even just you thinking, oh, well, I'm just watching this, that time, that time that you watch it does accumulate into a certain percentage, or depending on the the algorithm, social media, whatever you're using, like TikTok, whatever, it does make a monetary value to them. So yeah, things like that. So it's wild out there. But yeah. And if you hadn't, so with all that, if you haven't or hadn't had time to think about who you are becoming or who you want to be, it's less of a personal failure. It's less of a personal failure and more of like a structural, systemic failure. Like, there are things in motion purposely trying to say, hey, don't worry about that. You don't need to ask those questions. Go sleep. Go sleep. You're tired. Go rest. Oh, you can go eat McDonald's. Go get some Jack in the Box. Go satisfy a need now, and then you don't have to worry about the other part. Don't worry about it. That's, yeah. Victoria says, I watch cat videos, so basically I get so many vids of cats on my feed. So yes, but at the same time, there's a difference between, finding enjoyment, the proper ratio of balance of getting some news, or if you care about cats a lot, maybe that's what you care about. Animals welfare, be it veganism, be it vegetarian, be it just they should have better living conditions. So that's something you can like zone in on and be like, I follow these 3 places that I have legitimized as I agree with their values and what they actually do, and there isn't some nefarious purpose that they have. And they have a local chapter, and you can go hang out with people who maybe volunteer, or if they don't volunteer, they make, here donate food for the animals, or, not self-care, animal care things and things like that. So that's one thing, if something you do care about. Yeah. So chat, for you personally, when it comes to who are you becoming, who are you trying to become, either trying or you just happen to be falling into it, has it felt like you're being in more like keeping up mode lately? Like, things are just coming at you and you are more reacting to life? Or have you taken that step to actually be like, the author of your own book. Like you were like, I'm not gonna let. So sure, there's gonna be stuff that may come at you, but you're not gonna let it. I think it's Stoicism, the philosophy of Stoicism, where it's like the world is the world, so there's certain external factors. Obviously, correct me in the chat if I'm wrong to clarify. But the whole point is taking a step back and working on yourself, your character, your discipline, your self-determination, all that. So when things happen, you don't just react to them, you actually process it. And like when things happen to you, you don't make it part of you. You separate yourself, knowing that that's not you. That's a thing that is happening, is happening to you, but doesn't define who you are, type of thing. D. Nicoletti said, I'm still working with keeping up with everything life throws at me and get ahead of things. Yes, get ahead of things. Isn't that the truth? Sometimes, for me personally, with the YouTube channel and everything, I get ahead like a day or two and I'm like, oh, we're doing so good. And then suddenly I'm not ahead anymore. And I'm like, dang it. So yeah, getting ahead of things is, that's definitely something. But it's also like who you are becoming. So at least you're aware that you would like to become someone who is ahead of things, who has like, I guess now it would be defining how far ahead, a day or two, a week, a month, or what. It's a similar thing to being overwhelmed in like social media stuff, what's going on in the world. Pick your lane of what thing you actually care the most about getting ahead of. Is it work? Is it personal life? Is it house? Things like that. Like what do you actually care that it's like you want that to be streamlined? Because that could be something where you do that extra 2 to 10% every other day. That kind of moves the needle, and eventually you realize, oh, yes, this is in order. This is organized. That system is now in place and it's a habit of mine. I'm doing it. I think, sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of my notes here, but I think, I don't want to say Aristotle, but that may be incorrect. It may be Lao Tzu. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm going to write it in the chat so you know. You do your best, chat, to say like, I think that's what this is. But he, or Aristotle, I don't know which one, said something about your thought, like watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. Watch your actions because they become your habits, and your habits become your character. So it's one of those things that I guess someone who speaks poorly of themselves, it may not be catching that they think poorly of themselves. They'll speak poorly about themselves, and as they speak poorly about themselves, they'll treat themselves poorly. They're like, well, I don't need to make that nice food for myself. I'll just eat this because like you already have the thought patterns of I don't deserve to eat the good food or like the healthy stuff for me. And then so that becomes habitual. So maybe you become overweight, maybe you actually become unhealthy, maybe you become actually unpleasant to be around, and then that becomes your character because those are the things and the habits you have been forming. Yes, I've heard that before. Yes, I'm hoping, Victoria, you're referring to the saying that you've heard it before. Yes. But yeah, so things like that. So that's why I think for me personally, I've always noticed when people like negative self-talk and things like that. I personally, people always ask me, because I've been to therapy before, if that was one of those things that, you know, I grew up with social anxiety and things. But negative self-talk was never the thing. It was always like, wow, what a bummer. And we would just move on, not move on in the sense of ignoring it, but being like, well, knowing that that was external and outside of myself, or like how the world worked, I was aware of that. So I was just like, well, nothing I can do about that. Or if there was something I could do, I'm also a little bit into astrology. So I have my Mars is in Taurus. So my masculine energy, how I express it and how it feels to me is Taurus, the bull. So I'm a little stubborn. So apparently that's part of it, maybe, if you believe in astrology or like little anecdotal stuff about it. So I'm like, that stubbornness has really helped me be like, no, that's a them problem, not a me problem. Victoria said yes. She said, I do that, but I do it jokingly or so, I think. Yeah. You always got to be careful when you're joking. I think it's also like when you may have a dark sense of humor or an odd sense of humor, but when you're around children, you should like kind of refrain from doing that because they listen. So it's kind of one of the things, I guess if you're, maybe this is not from anybody psychology or anything, it's just my own thoughts. If you're concerned about how something sounds, like you think you're joking or you're like, it's fine. Like, would you say that in front of a 4-year-old kind of thing? 4 or 5-year-old, I think that's when they're old enough to they're listening to you. It's not like, 1 or 2 where they're not they're just new to speaking English. They're cool. But when they're 4 or 5 or 6, they'll take what you say. And I think that's like a good example, like depending on, would you say that right in front of them repeatedly? Because then that's something. Or I think another way people have said like inner child healing stuff is how you speak to yourself. Would you speak to your 5-year-old self like that? Would you say that to her and stuff like that? And if not, then maybe you need to like, redirect and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. Then it said, if you say something enough, you might will it into existence. Yeah. Yeah. Your thoughts become your words, and your words become your habits. Yeah. Yeah. If you say something enough, I know, like psychology wise, like children, things like that, when people are unpacking childhood trauma, the big T trauma and the little T trauma, messages and things that they learn from parents, what they heard, those are the things that really stick into people's head, that that they're not good enough, or they're not smart, or like, oh, I'm not really good at dancing because I grew up, people told me, stop dancing, or like you look stupid, or you look funny. So then those are those messages that you get, that you're just like, I'm not good at this. I think for me personally, I think maybe not good at drawing, which I agree. Like, I think my artistic skills stopped around the 3rd grade. Like, from even now, if I try to draw something, it looks about 3rd grade. Like, that's an 8-year-old drew that, and I'm like, yep, that's me. But yeah, but I definitely, in hindsight, can see how, depending on how you grew up, what opportunities you may have had, there's definitely a lot of things that even if you were mediocre at it, but you enjoyed it enough, if someone had said, hey, we can get you lessons, or hey, I'm going to take you under my wing and actually show you how to do this, that could have been quite an exceptional skill to have. Okay, so going back to who are you becoming, what do you feel you want the next chapter of your life to feel like? We're talking about the new year. It is currently, January 13th. I looked at the little date in the corner. So it's mid-January. I don't know how many of you all decided to do resolutions or thought about them or have any notion of doing them. I personally, let me know in the chat if you did pick a resolution or thought about creating a resolution, or if you did, let me know. I personally did not play with that idea. I don't think at all, like really. I have, Victoria, do tell if you like what your resolution is, or did you just think about it? Or maybe it's maybe it was a thought, it lasted 3 days and it was gone, because that happens. But it's hard. Okay, you thought about it. Yeah. I think to not overreact. Dennis said it didn't. I don't want to talk about it. It didn't happen. LOL. Okay, well, the thought does count. I think, yeah, so January comes with a very specific pressure to either succeed, achieve, do something instead of just do you. Tori says, and I effed it up like a weekend. Okay. But hey, you lasted almost a week. That's a positive. If you hadn't made that resolution, would you have lasted a day or two? I think one of the things, self-discipline, a lot of people think self-discipline is the thing you have or you don't. But the reality of self-discipline is that it's a muscle. You got to use it. And let's see, Danielle says, not a resolution, more just a heading/direction, staying in integrity, honoring my values. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I assume you probably know what your values are, so you know the direction you're headed. You've looked, like the metaphor earlier of like driving the car and just going in a direction. You've looked at the map. Like you have been like, this is the map, this is where I'm going. So yeah. What was the other thought process was? Oh, a lot of people think self-discipline is a thing like you either have it or you don't, but it's more of a muscle. So it's one of the things that it's like someone exercising every day, literally, because you're going to gain muscle. But it's not necessarily about exercising 7 days in a row, 30 days in a row, 90 days. It's about doing it more often than not. So when you exercise one day, woo, you did it. Awesome. Maybe you skip 2 days because you're sore, you got other stuff going on. But then that 3rd day, you're like, okay, I did. I got to exercise. I got a routine in. I did it. Whew. Now that's 2 out of the week. And then maybe just going forward, you just exercise twice a week, and you're developing the self-discipline muscle. So when it comes to like Victoria's example of not overreacting, maybe even go simpler with it, where it's like whenever you feel anxious or you feel like things are getting stressful, It's less about not overreacting and more so about taking a few breaths. Literally or figuratively, you can just count in your head, like count to 10, or you can literally take breaths and be like, I'm not going to respond to this or react to this until I've taken 3 deep breaths. And then, and that's part of developing the muscle. Doesn't mean you can't overreact or you're like saying you can't express the frustration you're having, but it's giving yourself permission to take a step back, reflect first, and then respond. And that's one way I think too. That's just my 2 cents. I'm just a lady. But I think, yeah. Concerning January and like New Year resolutions and things, we're taught to think of growth and like achievement and big steps, I think, of things that you that are very definable and noticeable. And a lot of times growth and achievement, like personal achievement, is quiet. You don't notice it until it's kind of like, I guess, running a marathon. Never ran a marathon, but if you practice, the first mile, the second mile, it feels like nothing compared. I think marathon is like 23, 24, 25 miles. I don't know. But in the chat, if you know how long a marathon is. And it's not even all or nothing, because if you did half the marathon, that is still like, wow. If you even trained to properly do a marathon, that is wow in its own. But considering that most people see it as like a 0 and 100, there is no like 10%, 22% as a success. It's like you either do or you don't, or you do. And for me personally, that's something I've struggled with the all or nothing mentality. But like learning to give yourself grace and learning the whole 10% is still, I wanted to say the F word, but we're not going to, but still effing 10%. Like you did it. Congratulate yourself on the small wins. Like be kind to yourself and things like that. Yeah, and not necessarily growth. It doesn't always look like you're doing more or doing a lot. Sometimes, like I said, growth is quiet. It's kind of like, was it a plant? Or when you plant a flower, the seed or a fruit, the seed is under there, it's doing stuff, but it looks like nothing is happening. Like you're like, it's been days, it's been weeks, depending on what you plant, and nothing's going on. But then one day, maybe you see just a tiniest of sprout, and you're like, oh, something's happening. And then maybe that's when the plant just starts, and it starts growing and blooming and what have you. So a lot of times, not say real achievement, because everyone's you achieve what you achieve in your own mindset of what you consider an accomplishment. That's your own barometer. But things there can be a lot of growth underneath that no one else sees, but quietly it is happening. Yeah. I think also with like the New Year thing, it's like the fresh start effect or something where people feel moved to like or motivated to do things or goals after like specific events, be it New Year's, birthdays, like clean starting points. So that could kind of add a little bit extra stress to feel like you should do something, even if you're like, no, I'm good. Because I think for me personally, I didn't do a New Year's resolution, but I did there's a video going to come out later this month, which right now is being affectionately titled The Sleep Challenge by me and my own doodads. But that's not what it is exactly. But you'll, like the video, subscribe, you'll find it'll show up. And yeah, I did that all in December. I also did a little like thing called right now in my notes, it's called the Alignment Challenge. No, that is not an official title. That's just what my mind says. Sure, that's what we're going to call it. And yeah, it was definitely about quiet growth, quiet change, doing my best and moving the needle in the direction I wanted to go. So I was looking at the map periodically at this point. So I wasn't just going. It was like, okay, we're looking at the map. We have a direction we're going. We're not just going off the vibes. Yeah. Almost lost track of where I was in my notes, but we're back on it. I think, yeah, like Victoria, you said, that yours was to not overreact, and then it's like you fell off the wagon on that. But for a lot of people, they feel like the year is already lost even before it begins. Like maybe someone else could have been like that very day something happened that they were like, well, the resolution is out the window. And I think that's something, I also had to learn. I think an example for me was, the all or nothing mentality, stepping away from that and trying to figure out like, no, you could still do things. The sky is falling, yeah. But the other day I was going to film, like that was the day that it was in the calendar, like I need to do this because in order to edit, you need to have footage to edit. And then my family showed up. Very surprisingly, they were all there. Another sister came over. My mom showed up. Things were happening. But instead of being like, okay, these people need to leave, and I was like, no, my family showed up. I need to take this as God or the spirit or the universe said, hey, now's not the time to film. You're going to spend time with your family. They're here. So yeah, I enjoyed my time I spent with them. When everything was said and done, I still had time to film. I didn't have as much time in the sense of like all day to just be like, I'm setting things up and taking my time, but I got it done. And I think that was a big noticeable thing when I took time to reflect in the past concerning like the YouTube channel and things. If a day didn't start out right, what I considered right, it was a wash. It was done, weren't doing anything. Maybe did one thing out of 5 and I was like, well, that's it. I guess we'll wait till tomorrow. Got to find a better day. But I got the stuff done that day, and it was a really good time to reflect, to realize growth happened. I no longer was thinking it was a wash. The day was done. I was like, no, we could still get some stuff. We could still get this momentum going and, finish the day on a high note. And so, yeah, so I think that was part of realizing the small growth that had been happening underneath the surface that I didn't even clock as something. The nerve of them. No, but I think that's what we all kind of do, is that we don't realize our own growth sometimes. Be it the big things, little things, things that actively affect our life. I think it can even go into things like weight loss. That can be a great example. Is usually when one is eating healthy, losing weight, you may not notice it, or maybe you do because you're weighing yourself. You're like, 5 pounds is 5 pounds, woo. But when friends and family start commenting on the weight loss, it may not be the healthiest, but depending on where you are with the mindset of losing weight, maybe totally fine. But when they start noticing you're losing weight and it's accurately, you are losing weight and stuff, that's kind of when you're like, oh yeah, I have. Or especially when you start working out or doing something where maybe you're weighing exactly the same, but definitely body fat or some things are moving, muscles being added, and then you start noticing clothes are fitting differently and things like that. Like growth has been slowly but surely happening. Danielle said, pivot, flexibility, you're learning to bend, not break. Yes, that was something. And I also was really happy because if you know me or if you know anything about me about the past body issues, PCOS, hormonal issues, cortisol rhythm issues, adrenal dysfunction, probably a thing at some point. But yeah, knowing that my nervous system is always nervous, but that this time, instead of throwing in the towel or getting the threshold being met by being like stressed out, it was like, no, the container is wider or I'm less stressed. I don't know. I was able to roll with the punches and handle it. So yeah. So I think, yeah, becoming isn't necessarily reinventing yourself, but it's evolving honestly, like being honest with yourself of who you want to become, who you're becoming. Like, I think that even goes into like the negative territory. If you start noticing yourself going negative, going turbo from Wreck-It Ralph, no, but going somewhere that you don't want to be headed. That's also a time to reflect. To be like, ooh, like maybe you've eaten out a few too many times and you're like, oh, I'm getting a little chubby there. Or I'm feeling sluggish and I feel gross. That could be a sign. I'd be like, this is not it now. It doesn't mean self-discipline of like, no, I won't eat that hamburger, but also means to identify why you're eating the hamburger. It could be emotional. It could be stress. It could be work related. It could be, oh, maybe you get off work, you are stressed, and that's the drive-thru right there. That's the closest place, and you haven't cooked anything, so you got to kind of reflect and go down the ladder or go up the ladder, whichever way you want to see it, and realize, because in the mornings, I don't put something in the fridge for myself to eat. Or I need to pack this pear, this apple, something. So on my break or on my way home from work, the 5 minutes where I'm sitting in my car doing something, I'm eating that. And so when I'm home, I'm not starving. I'm actually like, okay, I'm hungry, but I'm not hangry and going to make bad life choices. Yeah, that's something I personally have learned as a lady with PCOS. And like, I just look at something, my body says, oh, we're going to hold on to that fat. So it's like, it's in my best interest to eat healthy. um, I, know that meal timing is important because then you get hangry, your body starts like screaming for food, and then you're like making bad choices because you just want something in that is gonna probably something not good for you, something like high sugar, high calories to get all of it in. But yeah, and that's also something I've had to learn is eating enough throughout the day because I sometimes zone in and get focused in on stuff. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to go at 12:30. I'm gonna go have my lunch. Yeah. And then the next thing I know, it's like 1:10, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going. And then next thing I know, it's 1:40, and I'm like, okay, I need to go. And then by then, that's when I could feel my stomach actually getting like really hungry, and I'm like, okay, I made a mistake. So it's also acknowledging when you make mistakes, it happens. You're human. It's okay. Oh, and that wow, me talking about that went back to the next segment I was naturally flowing to was talking about like your personal limits and being honest with yourself. Um, we're no, but I think more so on the bigger sphere of life is that there are seasons in life where survival is the work, like that is the focus. There are times that when stress, work, bills, childcare, things hit where you can't necessarily think about thriving. You can still make small tweaks to kind of help yourself, but sometimes survival is the mission. Um, and not every chapter in your life is meant for big changes. Sometimes it's like, was it the chapters in Winnie the Pooh? I kind of like thinking of life as those little chapters of him meandering around doing his little Winnie the Pooh best. Um, Sometimes they're just going up the tree to get some honey. Sometimes they're just going to visit your friend Rabbit's house. Um, Sometimes they're just, sometimes they're meant to be more like I think when they build Eeyore a new house and things like that. I could be wrong. But yeah, some seasons are meant for slower pace, survival, not thriving. Some things are meant to stabilize, whereas maybe you made a lot of reasonably good changes in the past, and now is a season for stability, where just keeping up with those things and getting those habits formed and then becoming your norm, your character. I think for me personally, one of those seasons was like probably the first 2 years of when my daughter was born. I I was a first time mom. I didn't know what I was doing, but I'll do my best. I read a lot. I was prepared, but I didn't realize how much my body was like, girl, the ship will go down if you don't drink water throughout the day. If you're only getting 4 hours of sleep for over 6 months, like regularly, like the ship will go down. Ebb and flow, yes, be like water. I think the term like be like water, but Bruce Lee, the ebb and flow of things, it doesn't necessarily mean like just take what life gives you, but be like water. Like water can be very transformational. It makes canyons. It's persistent. It continues. It is life. So yeah, I think that's something I have personally kind of reflected on and gone back to. I think maybe in the future I may read a Bruce Lee book of some sorts, maybe autobiography or something, as I am interested currently. But yeah, be like water. Back to one of the seasons where I was just enduring was definitely when my child was very much a child. Like, I think it wasn't until she was like 2.5 or 3 that I even took her to daycare. Now, mind you, she was born at the later end of 2019. And if we all know what happened 2019, 2020, yeah. So I didn't want to necessarily take her to daycare or things like that just because COVID was a thing, new virus stuff, and she was an infant. So I'm like, oh, I don't know. And so, yeah. But one of the things, yeah, now in hindsight, girl, drink water, go to the bathroom, go take a shower. Like, yeah, I definitely stressed my body out a lot. But the positive is I know what I can endure. But now she's now 6 and it's still, the body's getting better. Definitely, we talked about the wins of like my nervous system, rolling with the punches, not being all or nothing mentality, but it still is a process. And we're still figuring it out and getting back to some sort of equilibrium. So, chat, has this last year clarified any of your limits for you? Did you learn something about yourself, like how far you're willing to go, how far you actually can go, what you shouldn't do because it's not in your best interest physically, mentally, emotionally? flow. Yeah. Um, Let me know, chat. For me personally, I learned one, I love these Tuesday lives and the Thursday game nights that are super awesome. But I learned I cannot be the emotional container. That was something I kind of was aware of, like from just my teenage years to my 20 somethings. Like I have my education backstory, no, education background is psychology, but there was a big thing during all that was I never wanted to be a counselor, a therapist, psychologist, any of that. So getting my master's program or my master's at some point was more so like what's it, industrial organization psychology or stuff like that. So it would have been much more difficult to find out that type of program. And then doing Tuesday lives, we're trying to figure out how can I make this enjoyable, fun for everybody, the discussion going without making the ship go down again. As we've learned, sometimes your girl does too much and just keeps pushing, and then the ship is slowly going down. So I very recently had to take that step back and be like, okay, let's reimagine this. I cannot be the emotional container. I cannot be holding all the space for everybody. So we had to take a step back, and hopefully this live like this is working. I really enjoy your comments, your feedback, and the exploration of all this and these thoughts. So yeah. So that was something definitely from my own personal clarification that I learned my limit where it's like, ooh, I cannot be that for everyone. I don't want to do anything but live and enjoy my time. Okay. I think that goes to, I think I may have mentioned last live. It was Tolkien who mentioned that when he created The Hobbit, that most people are hobbits, where they just want to, have good food, have a nice house, relax, do their hobbies during the day. And yeah, and I think as I'm getting older, for sure, most people are hobbits, and we have to realize that. And the people who aren't hobbits, you got to realize that too, and be like, what are they doing over there? I think it's great to live in the Shire just to be like in your own world, but certain times you got to like, I guess, protect your own world. I think this also goes to like Odysseus, in the Odyssey. He, I think in the Odyssey he mentions like a man's world is his family. Like all these things are external, be it riches, be it kingdoms, be it work, all that stuff. The true home of a man or a person is their family, is their house. That is your actual world. That's what you should put your energy and your care towards and stuff. So yeah, let me know if you agree with that, chat, or if you're like, maybe let me know through this discussion if you realizing there's a value system of what you actually value or prioritize more. Be it your home, be it family, be it work, be it the hustle of, but maybe there's a reason why you're doing the hustle of trying to get money for a very important reason that actually reflects back into family, friends, or something like that. Let me know. I think when it comes to like New Year's resolutions, and all that, it goes, instead of asking, what do I want to accomplish this year or this month or this week? It's more so, how do I want the next month to feel, or the next week to feel, or this year to feel for me? Do you want it to feel like an accomplishment? In what way? Do you want it to feel loved? Like you spent so much time with friends and family and your cup runneth over? Do you want it to feel stable? Do you want to have a certain rhythm or routine where nothing exciting happened and that's fantastic? So yeah, what do you want the next chapter to feel like for you? Let me know in the comments. Say calm, happy, loved, maybe adventure. Maybe you're looking to, spice things up a bit. Roxanne said, I would like to be able to do everything at home, work, play, family, friends, able to provide on my terms. So yeah, you have a concrete idea. So maybe that could be either a get together or something, but maybe even further defining what that means for you. Maybe it's starting a garden. Maybe it is starting a little side business or just designing something. Maybe that means for you, a weekly family night where it starts with just, we're watching this movie together, everybody out here. Or we're playing this board game. Once the board game's over, yes, you can just go back in your room, but we're spending time together, things like that. I think feelings sometimes are more often like honest than plans. Like you can have goals. Dennis said, I want to learn new things, be productive, be of service, but not for survival for the good of it. You okay? You want to be helpful. Cool. Danielle said, to feel safe and secure in my body and life, trust in the living God / universe. Okay, so safety, trust. Okay, cool. I think for me personally, I think I want to like plan some trips. like I stay home a lot, so maybe I want to plan go on a little adventure, be a little hobbit and go on a little adventure. Um, so maybe I want the next chapter feel a little adventurous, but enjoyable, new, but enjoyable. So yeah. Um, so I think yeah, feelings sometimes guide things better than rigid goals, mainly because um, goals are sometimes I think too abstract for people. Or if you say, I want to earn X amount of money, or I want to learn this language, um, sometimes motivation may wane because it was more of an abstract idea. Like you want this. But I think for a lot of us, the bigger picture is learning why. I think there's like Simon Sinek or something was like find your why. I think it related to more your life and life's purpose, which is fantastic if you find your why there. But in the macro or micro, I don't know economic terms, but finding your why in the smaller things, like if you're trying to learn language, why do you want to be able to communicate when you go to like Mexico next year, or you're traveling to this country in 2 years from now, or do you have a grandmother who you want to be able to actually speak in her native language with her? So there's a lot of different find your why. So that can be the thing when you don't have motivation, or can even clarify things for you where you're like, I don't know why I'm learning governmental terms when I'm trying to talk to my grandma and she talks about gardening a lot. So it's like those are what you should be learning. It's like the niceties and then things about gardening, cooking, things like that. So finding your why is really important. Danielle says, I think of it like there's an underlying feeling desired by whatever goal. Yes. There's an underlying why, some may say. So I think that's important. I think in a lot of things, even if it's like losing weight or getting stronger, it's find your why. Sometimes that's as easy as like writing some things down and suddenly poof, you figured it out and you're like, oh, that's what I care about. Awesome. I think finding your why also helps with finding your value system, right? So you don't need like a 5-year plan. I think you just need like a direction that you yourself, your body, your mind, your nervous system, what have you, recognizes as that is it. I think for me personally, I think I've been here because when you read kind of self-help growth books, all this stuff, or YouTube videos, there's a term like get in alignment with yourself, alignment, blah blah blah, alignment. But that actually did happen for me. It was really strange. When I was filming, like earlier in the story when I told you I was filming, I had the camera flipped facing me, and so I can know that I was in frame. And then as I was talking, what I was talking about, and looking at myself as I'm speaking and filming, I realized something clicked where I was like, I like this, and not in a way like kind of sounds like vanity or something where it's like, oh, you liked how you looked. It's like, no, it was all of it, what I was saying, what I was talking about, how I was presenting myself, how I looked, what I was doing, like what the reason was. Something felt aligned. And that's like the first time I've ever actually felt what I guess would be alignment, when you feel like something is clicking into place. So I really hope for all of you to find your why and your alignment. Danielle said finding your internal compass. Yeah, like when you realize you're doing something on track, not either your life's purpose, goal, what have you, like something is snapping into place like that. And like I said, you don't need a 5-year plan. I think a lot of like with the YouTube channel and all that, for me, the all or nothing mentality. A lot of times people think like, oh, that's going to take a lot of effort, or that's going to take a very long time for certain goals. But for me, reframing it as there's time's going to pass either way. So either you can start and maybe in 5 years you only make it to like 22%, which you could feel like that's a failure, but you could have been at 0%. And then maybe in 10 years, that's when you're at 42%. And if it's a language or something, being able to speak a language at 42%, like better than you were, that's still like, now you can actually order food properly. Now you can actually, exchange niceties with somebody. Now you can overhear somebody like, oh, I know what they're talking about. I know what they're talking about. You can watch a movie and actually enjoy it in that language or something. So it's, small things do compound over time. So it's helpful to not get overwhelmed. And I think that's why with the YouTube channel, doing the lives in particular and taking it more at one day at a time. Like I literally, if you see my notes are literally like my tasks and to-dos. I've only recently learned that 3 is the magic number for me, where I need to have 3 things on my list that I need to do for sure. And then up to 5 of like, ooh, if I have more time or something took way less time than I thought it was going to be, I can hit those 4 and 5. But learning your limits and being honest with yourself. Like I would love to be the girl, the person who's just like, ooh, bam, 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 all the editing, all the stuff is happening, but my body, my nervous system, all that stuff, your girl cannot. And that's being honest with yourself, knowing your limits and knowing how to be like water, to go with the ebb and the flow of like when the moon rises and like how nature is, to work with it and not against it, because you're going to be with yourself for a very long time. So learn to work with yourself and not against yourself. Yeah. I think back in the dark days, the winter season of my life, after my daughter was born and me, not drinking enough water, not getting enough sleep, not eating food during the day because I was watching my child, that, the ship was going down. So learning to take care of yourself and things like that. Lost my train of thought there, but I think that's okay. So yeah. Anybody have any specific goals in mind that they thought of that this next chapter of life, or like, I want to say feeling your thoughts? You guys already gave me some of those, which is awesome. But any other things, maybe actual goals? I don't know. I guess achievement doesn't matter. But yeah, I still want to learn Russian and Korean. I could still read it a bit, but I need to expand that vocabulary. So that's why personally I go into languages, just because that's something I'm familiar with. Well, we're going to wind down a little bit. I think it's important to remember that sometimes becoming who you want to become also starts at stopping. Like either stopping the things that are not helpful to you to become that person, or stopping the mindset that's not helpful to you to become that person. Like maybe the person you were is not the person you want to be. And maybe the person you were, no negative on that person because she helped you or he helped you through that life winter moments or that season, but they're no longer needed, and that's okay. I think that's what I learned too. Victoria says, I'm here for good time and not a long time. Haha. Goal is to live and be good to myself. Okay, so maybe that starts with your words or your thoughts that become your words and stuff like that. So I think sometimes it's important for us to let go of old expectations. Maybe you wanted to be or thought you would be this person by the age you are now, but that's not the reality. And maybe that's okay. Maybe there needs to be a pivot, a realignment, to figure out if that person you thought maybe when you're 19 or 20 is who you actually want to be. Or maybe there are some steps that you have made to be that person, just not how you thought it was going to be. Yeah. I think when it comes to like growth versus like loyalty to the past, in like that sense of who you thought you could become or who you wanted to become, and the reality of who you are now. I don't know, just thought to chew on. So let me know, chat, does the idea of a chapter change resonate with you? It's still a fun word, resonate. What do you think of it? Do you think does the idea of a chapter change seem too far-fetched, or would you want to rephrase it a different way? Or is it not quite on the nose, or if it just seems a little too universe spiritual inclined, where it's like, that's not quite the phrasing I want? Yeah. I think I like the idea of a chapter change because, like, imagine your life as a book. Every page is a page, every paragraph is a paragraph, but a chapter doesn't necessarily mean the book is closed. Like Victoria says, she wants to live for a good time, not necessarily a long time. So maybe she doesn't plan her book having lots of chapters, but like nice fun chapters in there. So maybe every page, paragraph, and so a new chapter, just a new day of doing something awesome or doing something that aligns with having a good time. So yeah, I think in the end, becoming doesn't happen all at once. It's like an accumulation of days, and those days may not even be in a row. So if you want to not overreact, and that's one of your resolutions, it doesn't mean every single day you have to do your best, but it's more so taking it for what it is. Giving yourself, if this, then this. Maybe you don't do your best, or maybe you're like, okay, something is happening and I'm upset. But you give yourself like, okay, a legitimate thing has happened and I'm upset about it. But I give myself permission to count to 10 or to take 3 deep breaths before I respond or react to it. And then I can react to it without judgment, but just knowing that these are my feelings and they're getting out. Right? Danielle says, I'm close to a new chapter, but not quite yet. All right. Well, Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins finishing off the end of the book or chapter. He was writing that book a long time. I'm sorry, I've been watching The Hobbit again with my husband. We started that again. So yeah, I think it's important to remember that small changes shape your identity over time. So it's not about like trying to do everything all at once. It's about taking just account to who you want to be, who you want to become, and what are those small steps. And it doesn't have to be like this step needs to be done in a week. It could literally be like a month, 2 months of just one small thing to get that ball rolling and to get the habit formed to help you form that character of who you want to be. So yeah, how's everybody doing? Did you enjoy that? I think it was pretty good. So yeah, who you're becoming isn't about pressure, it's about alignment. And I think for me, I'm figuring that out. 35 years old, I'm figuring it out. Hi. And I think I'm excited. I'm cool with that. Victoria said yes. So no need to answer all of these questions or to figure out your life's purpose or your why right now, but it's just important, I guess, that the question can be asked and you are allowing yourself to hold the space and see what fits, what stirs, what moves, what resonates with you. Danielle said, I want to rewatch the entire Lord of the Rings and Hobbit story, but it's a lot of time. Oh, yes, it's a lot of time. Yeah. So like this video if you liked it. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. But then I will have Thursday we'll be playing Mutazion. We didn't really decide on what the pronunciation is. But yeah, we'll be playing that on Thursday. It'll be fun. We're on chapter 2, so if you haven't watched yet, we're not that far into it. I'll put a little recap spiel in the front of it, just like I did with this anchor video of like, I'm calling it anchor video. That may not be the correct term. But yeah, I'll do something like that. So even if you aren't familiar with it on Thursday, come hang out. We're chilling. It's really chill, really just having a good time playing the game and figuring out what it's all about, exploring that town. And then I believe I do have it written down here somewhere, so let me check. January 27th. Not next week, but the week after, we'll be having another Tuesday live discussion. Maybe better, faster, stronger than this one. No promises. I'm doing my best. But I hope you like this one. So let me know in the comments if you dug it. If reactions, heart reactions, or hearts in the comments, or thumbs up in the comments if you enjoyed this, as we're trying to figure out what we're doing. But we're growing, we're learning, and changing together, hopefully for the better. So thank you for thinking alongside me today. This was lovely. I love all your guys' responses and sharing what you are willing to share. Fantastic. So I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a good week. I hope you are becoming who you want to become. And remember to take small steps. Every little bit matters. Just but don't get overwhelmed. Little things matter. Find your why and sit with that and just see what resonates with you. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day, rest of the evening, and a great week. Bye.